The first massive open online course, or MOOC, was offered by the University of Manitoba in Canada in 2008. The course, titled Connectivism and Connective Knowledge, enrolled 27 tuition-paying students on campus, but also offered the course free to anyone interested. Surprisingly, the open course ended up enrolling 2,200 students. Yet the real springboard for MOOCs was in Palo Alto at Stanford University. In 2011, two Stanford professors, Sebastian Thrum and Peter Norvig, launched a MOOC on the Introduction to AI, which garnered an astounding 160 enrollments. Following these impressive numbers, Andrew Ng and Daphne Koller launched two more MOOCs in computer science. Following the initial success of these courses, Thrum went on to found Udacity, and Ng and Koller founded Coursera.
Andrew and I decided that we needed to really try and scale this up to bring the best quality education to as many people as we could. So we formed Coursera, whose goal is to take the best courses from the best instructors at the best universities and provide it to everyone around the world for free. We currently have 43 courses on the platform from 4 universities across a range of disciplines, and let me show you a little bit of an overview of what that looks like.
Welcome to calculus.
50 million people are uninsured.
Models help us design more effective institutions and policies.
We get unbelievable segregation.
So Bush imagined that in the future, you'd wear a camera right in the center of your head.
Mills wants the student of sociology to develop the quality of mind. Hanging cable takes on the form of a hyperbolic cosine.
For each pixel in the image, set the red to 0.
Vaccine allowed us to eliminate poliovirus.
Does Lufthansa serve breakfast in San Jose? Well, that sounds funny.
So this is which coin you pick, and this is the two tosses.
So in large-scale machine learning, we'd like to come up with computational...
From 2012 till 2014, MOOCs, namely Ng's and Koller's platform Coursera, were sensationalized and celebrated as the end-all be-all to educational sovereignty. These free courses were the solution to the barriers to education, access, and social inclusion. With the advent of MOOCs, the world now had access to the thoughts coming out of the most elite universities in the US and the world. The hype was so much so that in 2012, Laura Papano wrote an article in the New York Times titled The Year of the MOOC, which emphasized the media frenzy that ensued with the establishment of MOOC startups like Coursera, edX, and Udacity. In her article, which has been cited over 2,000 times, she mentions the sudden and extreme growth these startups had at the time. The paint is barely dry, yet edX, the nonprofit startup from Harvard and MIT, has 370,000 students this fall for its first official course. That's nothing. Coursera, founded just last January, has reached more than 1.7 million, growing faster than Facebook, boasts Andrew Ng, on leave from Stanford to run his for-profit MOOC provider. While the potential for MOOCs is there, like with all emerging educational technology, there are ethical considerations that are necessary in fully assessing Coursera's contribution to digital education. There are several ethical labor implications for professors and university or organizational staff who are asked to create and manage MOOCs, often without additional compensation. The labor that goes into creating and maintaining and engaging with massive amount of students is insurmountable. A large portion of Coursera's revenue comes from university, business, and government partners. These institutions pay Coursera to host the content they develop on their website. Universities who partner with Coursera pay for the development of the content, including paying the instructors, assuming they are paid, to manage the course and provide feedback and answer questions to the students. This extensive amount of work and planning is often unrecognized. In one article written by a SUNY Empire State professor, where he wrote about his experience making a MOOC titled Career Brand Management and Specialization for Coursera, he says, the team included 4 professors of various rank, an instructional designer, a videographer, and an assessment specialist. None of us had any release time. The work was conducted day and night in 2 parallel video studios working simultaneously. I can only compare it to the Japanese practice of Ultra C for a handful of rice. In the 1970s, where Olympic athletes were striving to achieve super excellence in gymnastics far beyond the standard, with practically no monetary compensation. It did work for the Japanese in competitive gymnastics, and it worked for us. but honestly, I just don't know whether it can be repeated, even with decent pay. This is from Valerie Chu-Coleman, who is a professor of marketing at SUNY Empire State. The creators of this particular MOOC developed this course, which included over 150 video lectures, 60 plus exercises, and over 50 quizzes, and reading materials, all compiled within Coursera's requirements of edited closed captioning, in-video quizzes, and peer-reviewed assignments, all while managing an already existing course on Coursera as they were developing this new one. In another study, which conducted qualitative interviews with professors and MOOC creators from Spanish and British universities, reported that a highly recurrent issue was the workload. Some participants commented that, although rewarding in some ways, the efforts involved in creating MOOCs were significant, given that they were made on top of their statutory duties. I would dare to say that preparing a MOOC takes more work than preparing a module. This is from a professor in chemistry. The workload related to MOOC production resulted in stressful situations for some participants, who realized that making a MOOC was more demanding than foreseen, especially when managing a project with tight deadlines and little knowledge of how much time it required into production of educational assets in different formats. We were 10 days away from the deadline and we still had so much to do, so many videos to prepare and record, so many questions to write. This is from a lecture in law. While these are some examples of the volume of work it takes to create a MOOC, often in addition to other academic duties and often without additional compensation, it also speaks to how we as a society revere and respect, or don't respect, online universities and online learning. Often we see it as watered down and not as rigorous as in-person teaching and lecturing. So therefore, the work it takes to produce this content must be less arduous. And while universities do earn money from Coursera and other MOOC platforms in the form of royalties through the student payments of certificates, although not much, it's been reported that Coursera takes at least 80% of the revenue. It is unlikely that the money is ever funneled into the pockets of those responsible for developing this extra source of income for the university. Another issue of labor ethics is the crowdsourcing of volunteer translation providers to Coursera courses. Who is reviewing the translations to ensure that they convey the same message as the original language? Does the lack of oversight in language translation result in a lesser product for those who do not consume the content in the original language? Moreover, as a for-profit company, not paying its translators invalidates the technical translation as a craft that takes time and requires an individual to be specialized in order to produce a quality product. The time and effort it takes to translate educational documents, particularly at a university level from elite institutions, is a labor-intensive endeavor. With free labor from these global translation communities, Coursera is able to offer their services to a wider audience and increase their potential to garner income from individuals who pay for their certificates of completion. In 2020, as a result of increasing demand for online learning during the pandemic, Coursera had a revenue of $293.5 million, a 59% higher than the previous year. In addition, in 2021, Coursera went public and had its initial public offering opening at about $33 per share, and is estimated to be worth $7 billion. In addition, since 2017, Coursera has paid $281 million to its 200 university and industry partners. Surely, with such a financial portfolio, they can at very least provide stipends to the people who do the translation work for their organization. Additionally, simply translating a course undermines the reality that context must also be included in translation and interpretation, and this does little to culturally tailor the content so that audiences from outside the status quo, aka the USA, can engage with it effectively. Coursera has managed to monetize its platform. It is worth noting, however, that monetization has led to the effective elimination of the original MOOC idea, which is based on the ideals like free and open access, as well as building online communities. What started as an altruistic mission to provide free education to the world has turned Coursera into an online education juggernaut with hundreds of partnerships with elite universities, elite tech companies, and other organizations. There are a few things that are misleading about Coursera's experience for students and that I will be responding to. 1. Coursera is a free way to get access to the best courses at the best universities from the best professors. Now, everyone can take a Stanford course. In part, this is true, yes. Coursera does provide access to recorded lectures by professors from elite universities. However, what it cannot provide are the fringe benefits that Ivy Leagues and other elite universities offer their graduates that sets them up for success. For example, mentorship, internships, direct access to professors and researchers, cultivating relationships with peers, and a relentless amount of support and validation.
Okay, now let's get real. Let me rip off the Band-Aid for all of you, the 18s. Next year, the next year of your life is going to be bad. You have been in the comfortable, fleece-lined womb of Mother Dartmouth for 4 years now, and you're going to go out in the cold, hard world. Out there in the real world, there will be a target on your back. People will want to confirm their expectations of Ivy League graduates, that you're a jerk, that you're spoiled, that you use the word summer as a verb.
Moreover, most employers and other institutions do not convert Coursera certificates into credit, no matter how elite the university that provided the MOOC is. While I do believe that Coursera can supplement a student's learning or provide an opportunity for self-improvement, but is no alternative to college or a link to the Ivies, I think it falls short. 2. Coursera is free and open to anyone. In a way, Coursera and other MOOCs are contributing to the privatization of education. Coursera and other MOOC operators have taken the task of democratizing education and making college more affordable and accessible, e.g. by launching fully online bachelor's degrees through partnerships with the University of North Texas, a few Masters of Public Health degrees from the University of Michigan and London Imperial College, and a few university certified certificates. In partnering with Coursera to host their curriculum, universities state that they are making themselves more accessible, particularly to a global audience. And while I am all for making education more accessible, particularly to those who have been historically marginalized by traditional higher education, I do not know if Coursera is necessarily the answer to aiding that cause. Cost effectiveness is sold as the primary marketing point in selling these big name university ex-Coursera degrees. Yet, in looking into the cost of the UNT Bachelor's of Arts degree, it's pretty much on par with tuition for on-campus students. Per UNT's website, the tuition cost and applicable fees for 15 hours of on-campus without boarding is $5,647.68 per semester, totaling for 30 hours, aka 2 semesters, at $11,294. While 30 hours of UNT X Coursera costs 330 credit hours per credit hour, which totals at $9,900 for 30 hours of coursework. Keep in mind this is for in-state tuition. The cost doubles for out-of-state for both in-person and Coursera online. While the cost does scale down as the learner takes more courses, 45 credits costs about $14,850, and 60 credits costs about $19,800, I still do not consider this amount as necessarily affordable, and scholarships, grants, loans, and federal aid are probably still needed to cover the cost for many students. While these university partnerships with Coursera may be appealing to some, they leave me thinking about the high fashion designer collaborations with Target or H&M. Think Victoria Beckham x Target or Balmain x H&M. While you're getting an item that is high fashion designed, has the fashion house's name on the label, and has an air of exclusivity, all at a more affordable price, it still doesn't feel or hold the same intrinsic value as the real thing. In addition to transforming into a purveyor of certificates and degrees, for those who are seeking a standalone Coursera course, in order to get a certificate, which really isn't worth anything, it costs money. $39 to $100 to be exact. and the option to audit the course for free is easily missed by anyone unfamiliar with the platform.
These courses do cost money, but you can take most of them for free by hitting the audit button. And the audit button, if you go through the audit option, you don't get to have the extra perks like submitting assignments for grading or getting a certificate of completion, but you do get access to the video, so you can code along and follow along there. But again, the pricing is just, it's kind of a mess.
Individuals seeking to take online Coursera courses to upskill and learn in-demand skills like web development, data science, graphic design should consider their options carefully. While flexibility and accessibility of Coursera courses is certainly attractive, one must be prepared to justify to hiring managers what they've learned through a MOOC in a way that you might not need to justify what you've learned through a traditional BA or associate's degree program. In a study that compared how hiring managers valued the varying academic paths, including MOOCs, BAs, AAs, and college certificates for people seeking web development roles by Rivas et al., found that although MOOC participants were generally quite positive about the ability of MOOCs to help learners find new jobs or advance their careers, and hiring managers generally feel that MOOCs are a positive signal of an applicant's motivation and persistence. However, past work, in addition to this study, has found that such credentials are generally considered by people making hiring decisions to be inferior credentials earned from a traditional college. In signaling its usability as a place to get you career ready, Coursera has added more paying options like Coursera Plus, where subscribers pay a monthly fee of $59 plus tax to get access to 90% of the courses and get certificates. Coursera claims to help people bridge the burden of cost, but with the high cost of certificates and limited ability to access content without paying and relative worthlessness of certificates, it's hard to justify paying. It's funny because there is a controversy about taxing the rich to increase revenue and funnel that money into making education and other basic human rights more affordable for everybody. All the while, venture capitalists, aka the rich, are investing in Coursera and the like in an effort to achieve the same thing. It's lunacy. Most laughable is that they reported in their 2020 impact statement that they provided $300 million in scholarships. Yet in the fine print, very fine, they clarified by noting scholarships are equivalent to the cost saved through free access to the content on Coursera. Come on, Coursera, that's just not right. All in all, while I do think that there is a place for university online, particularly as an online graduate student myself, I'm skeptical of the decision for large universities to decide to host their curriculum on a private platform such as Coursera, mostly over concerns of competing interests, cost comparisons, and the quality not only of the coursework, but the attention and additional support that can be effectively offered to the student to help them succeed. In addition, while I do think that Coursera and other MOOC providers can be effective tools to upskill and supplement learning, I do think consumers need to be more educated on the validity and limitations of Coursera-style courses, and thoughtfully consider their end goal and do research into what is best for them prior to pouring hundreds of dollars into credit-less certificates from these online MOOC providers like Coursera. With its tremendous growth, as of 2020, Coursera has over 200 partnerships, 70 million learners, and works with over 2,000 companies and over 300 government agencies. In addition to users who use the platform directly, Coursera provides learning management support to businesses through Coursera Business, where companies can access existing training and development courses to provide their employees. Sure, the data collected by Coursera through these online courses can be useful from an instructional point of view and can be crucial to the course, not just for the students, but also for the instructors who can see where the learners are falling behind and make necessary adjustments. However, with so many partnerships, so many users, and so much big data transacted across the platform, one wonders what this platform is collecting. The unlimited combination of data sets may cause a paradigm shift in education. In the article, Social Media Platforms and Education by Jose Van Dijk and Tomas Powell, the authors compare Coursera's business model with those of social media platforms, stating that MOOC providers have vested interests in massive amounts of learners in order to obtain large data sets of learning and data and student profiles. Students and young professionals are arguably the most coveted targeted population of data industries, and their intention is very valuable. The appetite for educational data as a valuable resource on the data market is enormous. Combined with other data such as social media profiles, health and fitness data, and the availability of learning data may render CVs to future employers virtually obsolete. The repurposing of student data in the US context is largely a gray legal area. Just from the time I have started this video essays, I've gotten countless advertisements from Coursera about upcoming offerings and promotions. Coursera, like social media platforms, are not creating anything. They are just HubSpots on the internet to house and profit off the work, creativity, and ingenuity of other people, often at the cost of the producing institutions and by charging us, the users, for using its services. As Coursera permeates as a resource and partner to university governments and private companies, so does the potential for the datafication of the content hosted on its website. These mechanisms have the potential to compromise people's attitude towards learning and towards traditional educational institutions. Recommendations for ethical practice. As a for-profit company that largely profits by becoming the proprietor of intellectual property of other people, Coursera must do better in supporting the individuals who work tirelessly to materialize and support the content that exists on its platform. The often invisible work that professors, instructional designers, videographers, translators, and other personnel contribute to develop MOOCs must be validated, both through professional recognition and monetary compensation. Particularly as a certified B corporation, Coursera must do better by the people who contribute to its work. In her 2003 essay, Free Labor Producing Culture for the Digital Economy, Tiziana Terranova says, digital labor is simultaneously voluntarily given and unwaged, enjoyed and exploited. Free labor on the net includes the activity of building websites, modifying software packages, and reading and participating in mailing lists, and building virtual spaces on MUDs and MOOCs, which are virtual spaces where people come together. Far from being an unreal empty space, the internet is animated by cultural and technical labor through and through. A continuous production of value that is completely immanent to the flows of the network society at large. MOOC development is a technical and cultural labor that has value to society, especially as our digital lives supersede our physical ones. The creative and technical energy it takes to produce an online course is taxing, as mentioned by Valerie True-Coleman, and can easily lead educators and content creators to become burnt out by the need to constantly update their material, communicate with a large number of students, and create new content for their universities to be given to platforms such as Coursera. In a paper by David Hesmongal, sorry if I butchered that, he talks about creative cultural industries and how people can easily become burnt out by this work. I think it could be easily applied to MOOC developers in the translation community. These negative factors have led many critical commentators to interpret positive aspects of creative work in cultural industries as ultimately control mechanisms that serve to discipline or seduce workers into putting a great deal of themselves into what they do and tolerating precariousness and insecurity. Ideally, Coursera and other companies like it should be more transparent about how it makes money and its business model. I wish I could say that there is a more nuanced way to tackle this issue of free labor, and that the solution is simple, albeit probably unlikely to happen. Pay people for their work. In terms of equity of its educational content, there are some things that Coursera could be doing better in order to meet the needs of learners more effectively. One option is offering a greater support to learners in the form of advising, career counseling, connecting its users to jobs and internships where they can use the skills they are learning on Coursera in a meaningful and productive way. Additionally, Coursera relies heavily on cooperative sharing to answer questions, generate discussion. However, it would be great to get a variety of subject matter experts who are able to provide distinct answers to questions of students. On that same note, limiting class size to manageable amounts would be a strategy to improving the student and professor experience of a course. So instead of having, say, 10,000 students in a course, you keep it to 200 to 400 and repeat the course every 6 weeks for a new set of students to come in. While it goes a little bit against the grain of what a MOOC is, it has the potential to return better participation and a better experience overall. Alternatively, Coursera could give students an option if they want to participate in the course with instructional support or without, and provide different pricing options depending on what the learner chooses. That way, a MOOC course can simultaneously have a massive enrollment that focuses more on an asynchronous and autonomous audience of learners, and a smaller group of learners who are seeking for a more supported learning environment. Another strategy that would improve transparency is for Coursera to list the companies and organizations that accept paid certificate as a declaration of a learner's proficiency in a subject matter. It would be great for those seeking to acquire skills through Coursera to know exactly what companies and organizations have vouched for or accepted for a Coursera course credentials and certificates. It is widely acknowledged that education is a public good, not a commercial enterprise, and that the extraction of data from actors is of ethical concern. With primary, secondary, and higher education institutions transitioning to online learning as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, this makes this crisis of urgent concern. Even more so as actors like private MOOC providers slide into business partnerships with an ever-growing group of private and public learning institutions, governments, and businesses. One strategy that Coursera could implement is to provide privacy terms and conditions that are clear and intelligible to those engaging with the site. Another idea would be for learners to be able to accept or deny an assignment or project be included in data aggregation. For example, if a learner is turning in a paper for a particular course, next to the submission bar would be a section where the participants can select whether or not they'd like their work to be subject to datafication. This would offer individuals a little more autonomy in choosing what they'd like to be datafied and what they would not. Finally, it cannot be said enough that educating the public about datafication and surveillance has the power to elicit change. The more people know about the potential risks and datafication of education and other public sectors such as health and transportation can ignite positive future opportunities for political action and reform, research, and the reconstruction of education and massive tech companies. I really like Tatiana's idea of a digital strike and the practice of anonymity. Can you imagine a day where the entire world organizes, through social media, LOL, to disconnect for one day? It is empowering to know that we, the people, are the creators of value in this knowledge-based digital economy. This project has given me a lot to think about regarding Coursera MOOCs and propelled me to want to investigate the intricacies of Coursera's partnerships with institutions of higher education. Despite the critical analysis, I still see value in MOOCs and the autocratic learning overall. There is power in knowledge, no matter how it's acquired, and those looking to improve their socioeconomic situations through upskilling or learning through whatever means should continue to be encouraged. Regarding university administrators, while I see the appeal in partnering with organizations like Coursera to lessen the burden of transitioning education into the digital age, I encourage administrators to consider alternative, more community-centric ways to launching their online degree programs. Although probably more challenging at first, an initial investment into developing programs that are thoughtful, interdisciplinary, and are owned and regulated by the institutions might prove to be more fruitful. Finally, there must be a greater push towards recognizing and compensating those who work on creating digital learning content, particularly those who do it thoughtfully. This is for both the institutions who source and assign workers to do the work, and for Coursera and other MOOC providers who profit from the work, especially when tech companies like Coursera are profiting off this underpaid or free labor. I do not think I would have been able to conduct this critical and analytical case study without the exposure and building of knowledge of ethical education technology that we've been immersed in over the course of this class. This course has given me the unique insights and given me the tools to think critically on the abundant use of technology in education and weigh the benefits and consequences. Particularly through this project, I was able to delve a little deeper into a niche interest, labor and digital economy, and discovered thought leaders such as Tatiana Terranova, Jose Van Dijik, and others cited throughout this video essay. I hope to continue researching this topic throughout the course of my study and look forward to creating other video essays in the future.
Thank you.